Hello and welcome to DR Sports Transfers live at 5. My name's Nicky Hawkins. I'm standing in. Who was hosting it yesterday? Do you know who was hosting it?
I have no idea.
No idea. But I'm standing there as host on a Friday. Welcome to the weekend. And it's live at 5. As I said, I'm Nicky Hawkins. And with me, I've got Dylan. Dylan, where are you from? Because you was telling me this before we come on air, but I didn't
I am from so for Manchester United fans, they might know my page called United District. So we're mainly, we do, some people might know me from United View if you watch. If you're a United fan or you enjoy watching Flex Cry or KG Cry. I'm on once a week on there, and then my main thing is called United District. Mm-hmm. We cover transfers, football club, everything for Manchester United, mainly on Twitter and Instagram, and also our website.
Oh, brilliant.
But, yeah.
Go and check him out if you're a Man United fan. There's plenty of them in there because they was all slagging me off the other day. Should we start with Man United or Arsenal today? Because there's not much going on, but we've got a theory to as why there's not much going on. But
I reckon Arsenal to start with.
Let's start with Arsenal. Arsenal's always
we can dig into United in a bit.
Yeah. So Arsenal are set to announce Zubimendi and Kepa soon. Obviously, Kepa cost Chelsea a lot of money a few years back. Zubimendi, how much is Zubimendi costing them? Do you know that offhand?
I believe it's around 50 mil. That might be euros, that might be pounds.
So
I think it's around the 40 to 50 million mark. You'll be able to find pretty easily.
So I'm just trying to find out some stats on him. Where does he play? £32 million midfielder.
Okay.
I mean, they've got a lot in midfield. I don't know what they've let go in the summer, but is it
Thomas Partey's likely going.
Thomas Partey was on the release
and
list.
Also they want to sign Norgard.
Okay.
So I feel like, I think this is the Zubimendi transfer. I got a bit. I watched him play earlier this season. I went to go visit my brother in Madrid, and I went to an Atletico game versus Real Sociedad. And I got to admit, he wasn't good. I know he is good. It was just quite funny. My brother's an Arsenal fan, so I went to the game with him, and they got slapped up 4-0. But I think for 30 million, this is a player that Liverpool wanted last summer, I believe.
Yeah.
And obviously Liverpool went on to win the league, and they're fantastic. The squad that Liverpool building is incredible. And Arne Slot clearly rates him, so he's clearly a good player. And Real Madrid wanted him. I don't know how true that is, but Real Madrid apparently enjoyed him as well. So in terms of the teams that wanted to sign him, I think that does enough to show that Zubimendi is a fantastic player, and maybe what I saw was a bit of an anomaly.
Yeah, I mean, if Arsenal are after him, he's going to be a good player.
Yeah,
for sure. But is this the right stuff to reinforce their? I mean, there's a lot of midfielders there. That's what the criticism has been from for over the past few years of Arteta. He overloads on midfielders and he isn't focusing on the attack. Now, you would think that Zubimendi, how much is he going to cost Zubimendi? It doesn't say here, but it's £33 million. Is he in danger of wasting all the funds he has available and not signing a striker that he needs?
I don't think so, because what Arsenal have done so far, they've signed Kepa, or I believe it's on loan. They're signing Norgard as well for a 10 to 11 million pound fee, and they're signing Zubimendi. These are easy deals to do. Man United, when they signed Cunha was first through the door on the opening day because it was an easy deal to do. He had a release clause, and he wanted to sign for the club, and the club wanted him. I think what is happening at the moment is because there's not been a lot of action across the board in the Premier League, which is we'll get to why in a second. But I think a big thing for this is that the reason... I'll start this again. Basically, not a lot's happening, so fans are starting to maybe worry about what their clubs are doing, because Arsenal are dithering between Gyökeres and Sesko, and for the life of me, I can't work out which one they want. I think it's Sesko they want more, and then Gyökeres seems so hell-bent on signing for them that makes me think that there's more wiggle room in who they're going to sign than it's shown. But I think it's just a case of the clubs, Arsenal specifically, are getting easy deals out of the way, getting the ones that they know they want and they can get without too much fuss, and then they've got time to turn around to the big striker signing, etc.
Aren't they in danger because clearly last year it was a striker that cost them the league in the end. The year before that, I would say more than last year, but are they not in danger of missing out on the big signing? They want a big signing, Arsenal. They need a big one. They've got
two good strikers, Sesko and Gyökeres, who both want to sign for them. They only need one, so they've already got a surplus.
Do they only
need
one?
Well, I'd say Arsenal are a team that they haven't had a striker, and that's what they missed last season. But the season before that, they scored I want to say over 100 goals, 2 seasons ago, with Kai Havertz up front. And Kai Havertz isn't the kind of out-and-out bully 9 that people are saying they need. They still scored 100 goals because they had a lot of players who scored 15. They put in 15 to 20 goals. They had Saka last season was out for so long. Odegaard was out for a long time. Arsenal have a lot of players who aren't necessarily complete goal scorers, but they can get enough goals. And number 9, yes, they need to kind of level up. You know, if they want to try and compete with Liverpool, try and compete with City, then I don't know if they will or not. But if they want to try, yes, 100% they need a striker. But they're going to sign one of Sesko or Gyökeres. If they don't, it's because something insane has happened. Like, there's been a complete, like, the players have done a U-turn, so they want to sign, or Arsenal have been, they've lost all their money somehow. But that's not going to happen. So I don't think they're in danger because they have players who want to join them. They have these strikers who want to join them. If they succeed, whole different story, whole different playbook. But they are looking to sign a big striker, and I feel they will get one. And the players that they're talking to, like Gyökeres and Sesko, seem that they want to join Arsenal over anybody else.
But do you not... Arsenal and Man City are a very similar style of play. They play out from the back. You know, with the failure of Man City last year, we haven't heard a lot about Man City in this transfer window. And there's no rumours at all.
Well, they've signed Cherki, they signed Ait Nouri, and they signed the guy from AC Milan. They got their deals done quickly and swiftly, City did, and they're at the Club World Cup now. So, talking...
But aren't they in danger? What I'm saying is if there's a big striker come along, aren't they in danger of having to compete with Man City? Because Man City are going to be a wounded animal. They've got the money to compete, whereas Arsenal are a bit more... They dilly-dally. You know, they dilly-dally. They sign an abundance of midfielders, but they just can't pull the trigger on that striker. And
I've said this before, to be fair, that Arsenal, to some extent, look like they've got commitment issues. Arsenal don't, or historically haven't signed superstar players, right? I can think, obviously, when they signed Ozil, that was obviously years ago. That was like about a decade ago. That was that was a huge. That was 2014, 2015. I was in ICT lessons.
When was the last superstar they signed?
I'd say Ozil or maybe Sanchez, like outright, because the superstars they have, quote unquote,
they've made.
And I'd say the one big superstar they have is Saka. They've made. Odegaard wasn't a superstar. So he was from Real Madrid. Wasn't a superstar signing, but he kind of joined on loan, and then he came permanently, and then he worked his way up to becoming a Premier League captain for a top 6 side. But they haven't. But I just feel like. Also, you mentioned with Man City.
Someone's saying here Declan Rice. I've got to agree with that.
I don't think Declan Rice was a superstar signing. He was a massive signing, but I feel like if you sign a superstar, it's you know, I'm talking about like buying someone from Real Madrid who Real Madrid like. Declan Rice has ended up being an amazing signing. Yeah. Right, and he's fantastic. Yeah, but I wouldn't class him as a superstar. There might be, because the word superstar, there's a bit of a bias towards attacking players. Yeah,
but he's normally played in the Champions League, and
like already with a reputation.
Well, I knew he was a superstar, but
Declan Rice is an unreal save. I think it was 2 years ago to the day that Arsenal put in that £100 million bid, or maybe 2 years ago, like in the last couple of days, and he did come off the back of winning the Conference League. He had a European title to his name, admittedly not the Champions League, but still, what the achievement, when you take it into context of he won it with and captained West Ham to it, fantastic. But I think that Arsenal, they'll sign a striker, they'll sign a big striker this time. It'll be one of Gyökeres or Sesko. And Man City, if they go and sign a striker, they're not going to go and sign a first team starter because they've got Erling Haaland up top already. If they go and sign a striker, it won't be someone to replace Haaland. And
no, but you would argue that they needed to replace Alvarez from last year, because I think that was where it fell down, because they've got no. Oh yeah, it was all reliant on Haaland, and you know they changed the way they played with Haaland, and then when Alvarez came in, they played a bit different, and there was.
If you were a 22, 23-year-old striker, or someone like Sesko, or someone 27 like Gyökeres, would you want to go? And it's obviously yes or no, but would you want to go and compete with Haaland, or would you want to go for become, you know, an immediate first team, like you are the bona fide first team striker?
I get what you're saying, but there also comes a lot of pressure with that. Look at Højlund, look at Núñez at Liverpool. You know, the pressure is too much. So if you've got someone like Haaland at 23, 24, who is like one of the world's best at goal scoring, I would say you'd probably learn more. You'd probably develop more rather than being just chucked it. I mean, Højlund he's gone to pop since he's gone to Man United. It's too much pressure for kids.
Yeah, but if you're Gyökeres, you're 27, you don't want to be learning off a 24-year-old. If
he's the best in the world, I'd say you would want to be, surely.
Or would you not rather, you've come off the back of 2 50-goal seasons with Sporting, you want to play in the Champions League, you want to lead a line in the Premier League. Because remember, Gyökeres was at Swansea, Coventry, etc. in the Championship. He's played in England, so he's been in England looking up at the best teams. So no doubt going, I want to be there one day. He clearly wants to play in the Premier League. He's rejected Saudi Arabia's money. He's rejected Juventus. He hasn't rejected United, but he said to United, I would rather sign for Arsenal at the moment. Like, that's my priority. And I don't see why either of those, Sesko or Haaland, would want to join Man City over Arsenal purely because unless you're just like, you go to Man City, you're more guaranteed to win trophies. 100% agree with that, and if that's what you want to do, cool. But I feel like in both specific player situations, Sesko would want to come to the Prem, lead a line at Arsenal, or Gyökeres wants to come, and because Gyökeres is entering the prime of his career, and Sesko can be given the right platform to become a starting, like a kind of a like if he's on the route to becoming world-class striker, he's going to do that. That's why Alvarez left City. Alvarez left City to go and play because he didn't want to play backup for a 24-year-old.
Yeah.
And so I reckon both players would rather skip that process and just become a first-team striker at Arsenal immediately.
But it's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, but
they're going to be very reliant on. They want to win the league, and I think this might be.
But they have goals in their team already. They do, like as I said before, they scored 100 goals with Kai Havertz, who isn't a consistent or overly reliable goal scorer. A couple of years ago, they still scored 100 goals, and last season they were worse overall, but also they were hampered by Saka's hamstring and Odegaard having his issues as well.
Yeah, well, they are after quite a few people. So it says the Gunners are also working to secure deals with. Is that Christian? I think that's spelled. Christian Mosquera of Valencia as a backup centre back, and Christian Norgard, who is set to undergo a medical. Arsenal's opening bid for Mosquera was rejected. So they're doing lots of work. They're doing a lot of work.
They're doing the easy sells now. They're getting through some players who are squad players. A backup centre back, Norgard's 31, Premier League proven, and he's the guy that's got a hell of a throw in on him. He can throw in straight into the 6-yard box pretty much, and he's fantastic on the. So he's. I was speaking with Jack the other day with this. Norgard is also fantastic at the front post on corners, and we all know about Arsenal and corners. So he's a good weapon. I think a really underrated weapon for Arteta to have. I think it's a great signing.
Arsenal really are becoming an overpowered Stoke, aren't they? To be honest,
I like leaning into that joke. I can't lie.
Miles Lewis-Skelly signs a new deal with Arsenal. I think that's brilliant news for them. Real Madrid were trying to hijack the team, but he says he wants a legacy at Arsenal. I like Lewis-Skelly. Lewis-Skelly is a brilliant player. They're still tying players down to long contracts. There's still a couple that are sort of like dilly-dallying with signing. This sort of thing will obviously encourage.
They're giving Arteta every single chance to succeed. But part of me does think that it's becoming more of a now or never time for Arteta.
Yeah.
Like,
do you think this is his final season? Do you think it is now?
I think this is the season where he's more likely than ever to not be at Arsenal if he doesn't do something big. Like I'm not necessarily saying win the Premier League, but they haven't picked up a Carabao Cup. They haven't picked up an FA Cup. Even United in the last 2 seasons, we lost the Europa League final, but 2 seasons before that, we won the Carabao Cup and then we won the FA Cup.
Yeah,
we had 5 finals, I think, since Arteta got appointed. Arsenal have had 1. The FA Cup they won in 2020.
Yeah,
Arteta really does need to kick up a gear this season, and I'm not saying that he won't or will, but I do think that if it goes again one more season of them being, if they sign a big striker, sign these other things, like you've got most of what you want in this team, and especially like let's say they go get Rodrigo as well. Let's say they get rid of Trossard, go for Rodrigo. That's a monumental attack that Arteta now has, and he's bought so many midfielders and so many defenders that you think that he would be completely secure at the back, and then he's got a big attack, and I think therefore he needs to go for it. On Lewis-Skelly, it's just one little bit of fun fact is I used to coach him. When he was like 13. So during COVID, Arsenal's academy players couldn't train. And I'm a summer job. I tennis coach, and he used to come down to the tennis camp where he coached, and for weeks on end, Lewis-Skelly was coming down everywhere. I got to say, he was a physical monster.
Well,
he was faster than everyone, stronger than everyone. He was giving me a proper run for my money as well.
Did he have the confidence that he has?
Oh yeah. But the Arsenal made him wear a mask the entire time. So we're outside in the baking sun, and he had a mask on the entire time and a hat and everything, to protect him. But no, fantastic tennis player. But I think even better left back and midfielder. I think he's got a future in midfield as well for Arsenal.
Yeah,
even though they're signing every single midfielder on the planet.
A few people said he's got a future midfielder. Let's move on to your club then, Manchester United.
Yep.
They've still got a lot of offloading to do. So Man United are struggling to offload Tyrell Malacia. Sorry. The fullback spent the season on loan at PSV, where he won the league. United still need to offload Rashford, Sancho, Garnacho, and Malacia. That's it, Malacia. Why can't they offload these players? Why are they trying to offload some of these players? And are you fully behind the Amorim project? Because it's a lot of offloading, a lot of money spent on these players. And I know they're not his own players, but what happens if it all goes wrong? Because he hasn't filled me with confidence at all.
If it all goes wrong, he'll get sacked. I think that no one's going to. I'm not.
Yeah, but can you just keep on sacking people? Because that's a big project. You've got to trust someone with the rebuilding.
Yeah, I am more behind him, I'd say, than previous other managers. Yeah. And I know there is little to no evidence for me to be able to point to and go, look how good they are, blah, 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 blah. Because we finished 15th, we were shocking in the Prem, we got done in by Tottenham big time in the Europa League final, and even in the Europa League there were times where we looked like we were going out, where we conceded 4 unanswered goals against Lyon. And I'm not going to excuse any of it. I thought that Amorim made mistakes, and I think that they're mistakes that if he makes again next season in terms of like player profiling and everything, then he will be done in. And I think we do need to start next season strongly. We've got as far as the schedule goes, Noggin needs a schedule. We're playing Chelsea, City, Liverpool, and then Arsenal on the opening day. Those 4, I think, are all in our first 7 or 8 games. Not easy at all. But that being said, part of me, I like Amorim as a guy, as a person, as a manager. He's more, I think, he's at the very least more interesting than the other guys we've had. I'm partial to a 3 at the back formation, but that's just a personal preference, and I've never seen a 3 at back United, so I enjoy watching that to some extent. I think we need to add players to the squad, and we have done with Cunha and then Mbeumo. Desperate need of a striker, even more desperate need, I say, of midfielder, and then potentially another wing back on either the right or the left. I think our centre backs are fine, and then goalkeeper as well. Anana, not great.
Yeah.
But I feel like if we play better football next season, he will become better, partly because he'll face less shots. So it's more of I'm happy to kick that down the road for a further season, as long as we end up playing well. If we end up playing badly, Anana will be contributing to that, and that will be poor form, and Amorim will be gone. And I think he knows that as well.
So do you trust Amorim and the time that they will give Amorim to offload someone like Rashford, who's been there a long time?
I think he's got the right idea, Amorim. Him being able to execute it is a whole different question. But I think at least the idea that he has and what he wants to do, in theory, I think is a good one, if that makes sense. And in terms of offloading, I think they're all their own unique circumstances. Anthony, I think to Betis is almost nailed on. It's a matter of when, not if, and how long United can hold out that fee, because they need around 32.5 million in order for his sale to go down as PSR profit. Anything less than that, and it'll go down as a loss on the books.
Yeah.
Rashford, I think, might end up being a loan, because he's the one where if it is a loan, it's not a massive problem, because he's still got a few years left on his contract. Let's say he goes to Barcelona. Let's say he gets his Barcelona move, right? And he plays well. Then cool, he's been in the shop window for a whole season, and then he's 28, 2 years left on his contract. United will probably be happily accept something like 30, 35, 40 million.
But what would you rather Rashford do? Being a United fan,
I would rather he gets sold.
You'd rather
realistically,
because if let's say, for instance, Amorim gets a sack, he's on rocky road. We'll know that if he don't get off to a good start. They've sold Rashford. He's a United, I wouldn't say a legend, but he's definitely like embedded in the club.
Yeah, for sure.
So what happens if a new manager comes in? And he went to Villa last year. He done really well. So did Anthony, and they're about to sell him. I don't know why. No. I don't know why you're selling Garnacho. Is it money? I don't know. But these players, they're like, they're really ingrained in the club, and I think they fit the club. But I don't think the manager's style. He just refuses to do anything else. So what I'm saying is, if someone else comes in and you could do with a Rashford, the same happened with McTominay. He went to Italy, he's torn it up. Before he left United, he was scoring goals left, right and centre. Are you in danger of like selling these players for, I'm not going to say little profit, because it will be pure profit, but then later on down the line, you sort of regretting it yourself, because they're going to cost a lot of money to replace.
It's one of those things, Rashford in particular is, at least for me, a very hard situation to grass, because I don't think any result that comes out of this situation is going to have its drawbacks.
Yeah,
Rashford's probably been my favourite player at United in the last 10 years. I love his story. I love everything about him. He's I know there's always people being like, oh, he's a PR merchant, blah blah blah. I think he's a lovely guy in terms of what he does outside of football. He's a wicked footballer on his day.
Yeah,
but it's a case of his time has. It's just come, for whatever reason, like one reason or another, it has just come to it. It's just come to an end.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that he's done something particularly wrong, and it also doesn't mean that Amorim's done something categorically wrong.
Yeah.
In another situation, I think Rashford would work really well as a centre forward alongside Cunha and Mbeumo. I think that's an unreal front three with Dorgu and Ahmad as wing backs supplying them. I think that's fantastic, but it's just a case of it's just something we're going to have to let go of. Because he wants to move to Barcelona now. I think he's accepted he's not going to come back at United. Amorim's decided that he doesn't want him as part of the squad. The reports say that it's because Rashford wasn't putting 100% in training. He was being lazy, blah, blah, blah. Again, I don't know how much to believe that, or if it's just a case of Rashford wasn't doing the things that Amorim wanted. Because he's had injury issues and everything. But it's a difficult case of it's ended up being messy. And no matter what outcome it's a messy situation. Yeah. But I think it's a case of rip the Band-Aid off.
Time to move on.
It's not like we're selling him and we're done in. We're signing in his position Matheus Cunha, who is a wicked player and suits Amorim better. And he's a year younger than Rashford as well. So it's almost like a like for like. So Cunha's 26, Rashford's 27. We're almost like kind of picking up where we left off in terms of leaving Rashford, and then we're massively upgrading our right-hand side into having Ahmad and Mbeumo as right-hand. So Rashford is going to be a miss in terms of the type of player he is, what he represents for Man United, but it also is just time for him to leave, because that's sometimes how football works.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It also said deal with Mbeumo is getting closer. He wants Man United, of course. Believe that Brentford wants £63 million. Is a bit more than Wolves got for Cunha. Is he worth £63 million?
I would caveat that by saying it's actually 55.
Okay.
So in the same way, you can say Wirtz is 116, or you can say Wirtz is 100 million, because the fee is 100 million, and the add-ons add up for Wirtz to 116. With Mbeumo, it's around 55, I believe. From reading the 100 million reports I do each day.
But there's add-ons.
It's like 55-ish, and then add-ons take it to like 63. It's probably the maximum I would have want United to pay for Mbeumo. I think if we had managed to keep that under 60 million, that would have been incredible. Yeah. But base fee of 55 million, and if those add-ons are that, Mbeumo makes 150 appearances, he scores 70 goals for the club, he wins the Premier League and the Champions League, cool, I'm happy to pay the extra 8 million, because that means that we've gone and we've won all those big competitions. But it's the maximum I would have wanted us to pay for him. Yeah, but I'm fine with it just because of he's 25. He scored 20 goals last season. He won't get 20 goals this next season, I think, but he will elevate our attack.
I was just about to say that for the day and age, 25-year-old who scored 20 Premier League goals. I think that's
The only thing is because he's got 1 year left on his deal, which could be 2. Brentford have the option to add +1, but at the moment, obviously, he's contracted up until next summer. But I think it's the max I would have wanted the club to pay. Partly because if you're then committing like 70 million to him, we might not be able to sign a striker. Yeah, which is then we're in danger territory because we need a new striker, we need a new midfielder. But no, perfectly happy with the Cunha fee, perfectly happy with the Mbeumo fee, and I'm so excited to watch them next season.
Fair enough. I've got some comments to read out here. No super chats yet. Get your super chats in, and they flash up.
And drop a like.
Definitely drop a like. Jason Kay says if Rashford was that good at Villa, they would have kept him. This is a bit slow, this chat. I don't know what's going on. Paqueta is someone I'll take. We'll be talking about him in a minute, Laurie Boy. Mr. Miracle said, I disagree. Stop pandering towards Rashford. He does not fit the Amorim system. And in no way does he blend well with Cunha and Mbeumo. So you're saying he would go with Mbeumo?
I think it could work. But I'm also saying the same way that I think Xerxes could work with them. It's just theorising. Like, realistically, I'm just saying something that we're never going to be able to prove or never. It's never going to happen.
It's subjective, isn't it?
Well, the Xerxes one might, and I like the idea of Xerxes playing with those two. I like, but it's just
Jason Cage just says Rashford. It just screams toxic. So there we go. Let's go West Ham then. My club, West Ham. It says here, Lucas Paqueta is reportedly keen on returning to Brazil to rejoin former club Flamengo. Paqueta endured a difficult season on and off the pitch, and he's awaiting a verdict following his FA hearing with regards to a spot fixing allegation. Brazil's number 10 going back to Brazil to play football. Does this scream I'm guilty for you?
How old is he?
25?
Yes, if I say he's
yeah.
Do you need to go all the way to Brazil if you're not guilty? Because he was. I know Leon are just relegated, but that guy was unreal at Leon. AC Milan, he had a bit of a dodgy, a rickety time, but Leon, he was amazing. And when he started at West Ham, he's a fantastic footballer. I think Paqueta. Maybe he is guilty, and he's.
I'll tell you something about Paqueta, right? So. He had difficulty when he started. When he come and he hit form, he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
This accusation come along, he was destined to go to City. He was like, dead set on going to City.
Oh, there was the fee? It was a crazy fee, wasn't it? Like 88 million or something.
It was already
like that.
agreed, and I think it was he refused or he asked not to play in, which is part of his defence, in the Bournemouth game, first game of the season, because he didn't want to get injured for the medical. As soon as this stuff has started coming up, his form has dipped, which you can imagine. He's facing a lifetime ban.
Yeah.
But no assists last season. He's just in and out the side. I'm not saying he's not bothered because obviously personal pride but his mind is just not on it. So the hearing apparently is going to be in about 2 weeks. So it'll just be past the transfer window. I don't know what's going to happen with him.
How do you feel about it as a West Ham fan?
I'm going to be gutted if we don't get no money for him, because a couple of years ago he was going for 85, 90 million pounds. But the same is with Kudus, to be honest with you. I didn't see enough of him last year to be missing him this year. So he wasn't there, and nor was Kudus. So they didn't make a big enough impact. So if we can get some big money and rebuild for them, I would take it. But I think he's got a ban coming. I do think he's got a ban coming. If you watch the last game of the season, or the last couple of games of the season, he got very emotional for getting a booking, and more emotional, and that screams to me there's something on his mind.
I remember it. Yeah.
So he didn't join in with end of season celebrations towards the end of the season. So he's either going to go, which I'd welcome if a good fee come in, but I think he's got a. I think he's got a bit. I don't think it's going to be lifetime. But I think
what's the parameters of this ban? Is it he can't play in the Premier League? Is it UEFA?
Well, yeah, I think in Brazil he'll be okay. So there was a couple of Brazilian clubs that come in with cheeky bids, 10 million quid, because they know he will be, be able to play there. So, yeah, I don't know. We will find out in due course, I suppose.
Maybe it's a case of he gets a ban for a couple of years and he goes back to Brazil for those years, almost rebuilds himself. Like Andreas Pereira, we loaned him to Flamengo, and then he came back to England after being at Flamengo for a bit and then signed for Fulham, and for a while was fantastic at Fulham once he was hitting 26, 27, 28.
Yeah.
So it could be a case of if he does get this ban and he can manage to get out somewhere before either it hits or anything, go be in Brazil, rebuild your career slightly, or just keep ticking, keep ticking almost, and then you play well, and then maybe some unsuspecting La Liga club will come back in for you in 2 years or something.
I mean, if he gets a couple of years, he'll only be 27, 28.
Yeah,
so,
this is what I mean. He can then head for a season to, I don't know, Real Betis to pick someone out of mid-air, or go to Germany at Frankfurt.
Yeah.
And then have a good season, and then he can probably be back on track to a City-esque transfer. Who knows? Because he was an unbelievable player.
He was. But in terms of if he's found not guilty, West Ham should be suing the FA for everything, because they've sort of brought allegations to him with no evidence. So it's all on. What was the word? It was what was the word? I can't remember. But it's basically it could be, and it's possible that he has. So they've given him all of this nonsense and ruined transfers and stuff, and it's not even. They didn't even have evidence. They just charged him because they had to charge him. So, probable cause is the word. I don't know. It's a bit of a mess at West Ham at the minute, all around. Yeah. obviously we're in. Well, the owners are saying we're in a bit of PSR trouble, and we can't sign anyone until we sell. So, like, he would be one of our biggest assets. But they have. West Ham said they joined Brighton and RB Leipzig in a race for Harvey Elliott. I think Harvey Elliott would be a decent signing.
That is a fantastic signing. Yeah. I think that's a very good. If West Ham could pull something like that off, I think Harvey Elliott is one of those players he's almost gagging to get his chance.
Yeah.
Not necessarily even just in Liverpool, but in England, because he's been playing under 21s football for England for God knows how long now.
Yeah.
He's been there for years. He's watched multiple English talents emerge after him and then leapfrog him. Like he came through at Fulham. He came on. He's like one of the youngest players in the Premier League ever. At 16 years old, got his transfer to Liverpool and was good at Liverpool. He's never had a chance to actually properly nail himself down in the England squad. Meanwhile, he's watched Kobbie Mainoo make his debut at United, have an amazing season, outplay him, and then start in a final in the Euros final. He's watched Miles Lewis-Skelly come through, start Arsenal, shine in the Champions League, now scoring his debut for England. And meanwhile, Harvey Elliott he's just sat there, kind of watching it all. And he's at the under-21s tournament now, and apparently he's putting some good performances.
Yeah.
But he's still at the under-21s.
How old is he? Looks like 22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was playing at the under-21s level at 17, and he's playing under-21s level at 22, because he's not gonna kick any of the Liverpool starting 11 out.
No, I was just about to say.
He's not benching Salah. He's not benching Diaz. He's not benching Wirtz. He's not going to bench Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai is probably going to be ahead of him, and all these other players. Nunes, if he stays, he's probably not going to bench Nunes. He's not. And Liverpool's position where there's the most ambiguity is striker.
Yeah.
And Harvey Elliott's not going to be starting up front for Liverpool.
So he's sort of like in the Cole Palmer situation, isn't he? Like Cole Palmer was a fantastic, at City, fantastic player, but he's.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say Harvey Elliott's as good as Cole Palmer, but in terms of he's a fantastic talent at a top club who is he's hit a brick wall.
Yeah.
If you were to go to West Ham, even if it's you go to West Ham for a couple years, just to turn around to everyone and go, see? You turn around to Tuchel and just kind of go to Tuchel and go, look at me, I'm good. Yeah. I can play football. Because he's a good player. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything extra with it, if there's attitude stuff, whatever, I'm not sure. But I think both for him and for West Ham are getting a fantastic player, and he's getting the chance to play 38 Premier League games a season and turn around to everyone and go, this is why I'm one of the youngest Premier League players to make their debut. This is why Liverpool signed me. This is why I should be playing for England.
Well, I think he could be a fantastic replacement for Paqueta, and I think that he's just the energy that we need. I think it'd be a fantastic signing, but RB Leipzig and Brighton are... they're very attractive prospects at the minute, and apparently we need to sell before we buy. So, how much he's going to cost?
Yeah. Whereas Brighton are going to get a hefty amount for João Pedro if they sell João Pedro.
They've still got payments coming in from
Caicedo, all of that, and then there's obviously the increasingly popular Germany route. Sancho started it, Bellingham did it, Joe Bellingham's now there. It's obviously they were all Dortmund, but like the going to Germany route for young English talents, and even someone like Harry Kane, going to Germany and smashing it, is also a very attractive option.
Well, RB Leipzig are in there as well. I don't think he'll go to Germany, to be quite honest with you.
But I mean, it's in the way of it's definitely more of an attractive option that would have been maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah. Are they playing European football these days? I know they've been in and out.
European football, I assume so, but it's because there's about 15 different European competitions.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see how that one goes. So, Braithwaite... Reece Oxford in Germany, former West Ham. What do you mean?
As in Reece Oxford he went to Germany as well.
Oh yeah, he did, yeah.
Yeah, just as another.
Actually,
English,
he's just been released. I believe he's just been released anyway. I read that.
But either way, it just shows the case of an increasing amount of young English talents going to Germany.
Yeah, there's lots going to Germany.
Yeah.
I think Bellingham's brother just went to Dortmund, didn't he?
Yeah, Joe Bellingham. He's scored at the Club World Cup for them.
Yeah, it's a good. Sancho obviously went and he done very well. But yeah, loads of English players over in Germany at the moment. So maybe it would be a interesting proposition for Harvey Elliott. But I would like him at West Ham. I think he'd be a hero at West Ham because I think he'd just bring the energy that we need, and I think he'd fit. Oh.
That was me, sorry.
That was me. I think he'd just fit into what the fans love about someone like it. He's a bit cocky as well, and he's a bit of a.
Well, he'd be one of your star players.
Yeah,
I think that can always go either way, but I think it's the type of person, type of player he is.
Yeah, Yeah. We've also been linked. I think I haven't heard anything about Jonathan David. I heard we was linked with him a while ago, but yeah, we'll see.
Jonathan David. It's his agent fees are about 12 million quid.
Yeah.
It's free signing, but I think his wages aren't overly hugely demanding. I think he's demanding much more than 120, 150 grand a weekish. Maybe if it was a Premier League team's more. But I think the big stumbling block is that his agent fees, commissions, bonuses are totaling well over 10 mil.
Yeah, because he's on a free trade. He's worth,
but I think that's what is stopping that transfer at the moment. Across all clubs, because United, we need a striker.
Where do you think he will end up though? Because he's got to be one of the hottest free agents in football right now.
Oh, he is. He is. Jonathan David is a great striker.
Yeah,
he's one of the. I don't know how much if you ever played like Football Manager and FIFA and stuff, but he was always one of the first players I signed in career mode. Yeah. Jonathan David always got to 98, 99 rated team, but because I'm not going to use that as a barometer to say how good he is, but just he is. Good with his feet. He's got 25 goals last season and also something like 12 assists with Lille. Does well in the Champions League, scores in big games. But I think it's just it'll be a mix of he's got all the time in the world to pick where he wants to go, but at the same time he's got a little bit of a tag of agent and entourage fees, which traditionally clubs don't like to deal with. But it's no more or less than we paid for Eriksen. We gave Eriksen about 10 mil signing bonus when he signed for us for free from Brentford. It's not too far different from that, but it might just be a case of maybe there's a club he's waiting for. I don't know.
I've got a super chat in here. So Tanshik Dasu says, Nicky, what's the ceiling for that Scholes kid? Do you know what? I was having a discussion about Scholes the other day. I think Scholes is a fantastic player. I think when we played Liverpool, he got a bit found out and his confidence got a little bit shot, but I was talking to Paul Konchesky. I hosted a night with Paul Konchesky a little while back. And he says he thinks he's going to push into midfield. So he doesn't see him as a left back. He sees him as more as a left midfielder. But yeah, I think as a left back, I think he's about at his level now. But if from what Paul Konchesky was telling me, apparently going forward, he's... he could reach the very top. So, yeah, that's something to keep an eye on. But he is a fantastic player, and I don't know. We've got we've got a great sort of under 21s, under 18s team. We won the cup a couple of years ago. So there's quite a few there. But whether they're going to get into the team under the certain circumstances when we're fighting relegation and managers are scrapping for, I don't know. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, I don't know. There's a few of them I'd like to see come into the first team, but will they be given the opportunities? I don't know. I really don't.
I think we're going to start seeing in general across Premier League teams young players coming through. At least from United. From United's perspective, I know we've got so many 17 to 21-year-olds who are just fantastic young players. Yeah. I think because fees are starting to become so ridiculous for transfers, clubs are going to start turning to their academy and go, well, he's basically a £30 million player already. Why would we pay 70 for this guy?
Yeah, I agree. But the only one thing I would say about the under-21s is that I think sometimes they get tempted by the money too much, and they think they've made it before they've made it when they've got one contract. But yeah, young, hungry players, we need to get them in the teams because it's so tempting now for managers to buy ready-made superstars and spend a bit of money here and spend a bit of money there, rather than trying out the youth and trusting them with their jobs basically. But Scholes, I don't know. I don't know whether he's going to. I hope he's a permanent fixture, but I think he might be more of a left midfielder than a left winger. Let's have a look then. Let's go to Braithwaite. He accepts Everton proposal. So Jared Braithwaite set to accept Everton proposal and sign their new deal at the club. The agreement will be valid until June 31st. So he's signing a new contract. He's been linked away for a while now, but signing a new contract, that's got to be big news for Everton.
Big for Everton. To tie him down, considering the season they had, especially after appointing Moyes and kind of the run of form they went on after appointing Moyes, moving into a new stadium, keeping who effectively probably is your most valuable player is on a new long-term contract, and he's 23. Big for Everton. That's a proper statement of intent from them, because he's been linked to Liverpool, United, Arsenal, and also I think several clubs around Europe for 18 months, 2 seasons now. And Everton, to be fair to them, stayed there. I went 75 mil. And clubs went 50 mil? No, 75 mil. 55 mil. No, 75 million quid or nothing.
Yeah.
And they stuck to their guns. And he's a good, like, England international, Premier League level good defender, left-footed, which is rare. The number of left-footed centre-backs out there isn't, they're not a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
I think, and also moving into the new stadium, they're going to improve their squad this season because Moyes is back, and he's like kind of, in terms of, he wasn't great at United, but in other clubs, like you don't know David Moyes well over 2 spells, he can galvanise. And I think he's actually, despite not being the youngest manager in the world, a very good leader to have to bring the club into the new stadium. And having Branthwaite there will only add to it.
What he does well, I think, is he sets a mood in the club. And he
really does.
He makes it a good place to go. I mean, they've had a tough few years. I mean, they've nearly gone down a few times. They was a bit more comfortable last year, but they obviously had the PSR. Is this a new era for Everton? Because, I think they're going to have a difficult time going into the new stadium, but they seem to be getting their monies and their the organisation behind the scenes. They seem to be getting it in order now, and it seems to be like a brighter future, because everything you've seen from Everton over the past few years has been sell. So, like, signing people like their best players up for long-term contracts, they're putting a bit of ambition in the transfer market. Is this going to be a new era for Everton? Is there something to be excited for?
New era may be a bit of a stretch, because at the end of, I don't want to anger people here, but at the end of the day, they're still going to be Everton. They're not in a, so I would say a new era is defined as something like what Newcastle have done, right? And like they've done a 180,
so
because new owner, that's
money.
a new ownership, new board members, a whole new squad, new manager. That's what I would define as like a kind of an era-changing thing at a club. But what Everton are doing is they're keeping up with everybody else, which means they're not going to lag behind, and they're not going to end up falling down the table. Well, they're not going to get, like, they're not going to have another season like last season, I don't think. Like, next season, they'll probably be better off.
Yeah.
They'll get, like, finished lower to mid-table, or maybe they'll, in summer transfer window, they might do some good stuff which will send them up the table, might be pushing for top 10, pushing for one of the million other European places are there.
I think convincing someone like Branthwaite...
It's a big step. It's a big step.
Yeah.
And
like, a couple of years ago, who's the kid they sold to Newcastle? What's his name? Remind me. Going to...
Ooh.
What's his name? I can't remember the kid, but you know.
If you know, if you know, put it down. Because I'm a bit of a loss here.
Gordon.
Anthony.
Yeah. But
who's now linked with Arsenal?
Like keeping someone who's been linked away for so long and signing. It would have seemed.
But I would say
impossible.
so. All the Premier League teams now they're all leveling up. Like you would like Bournemouth. Three of Bournemouth's back 4 have gone to Liverpool, Real Madrid, and somewhere else. This is Bournemouth we're talking about. Like all the teams in the Premier League, and I mean this in massive credit to Bournemouth and all these other clubs, is they're leveling up, they're stepping up, and it's leaving. It is creating an increasing gap between the Championship and the Premier League, which is a whole separate issue. But Everton moving into a new stadium and signing players like Jared Branthwaite up on new big deals, and they'll probably, hopefully, for them, get new players in. I wouldn't call it a new era for them, but I would say they're doing well to keep up with everybody else, which means they will stay in the mixer and stay a Prem club. They won't fall behind, which is essential for them.
Yeah,
because they're such a quintessential Premier League team.
I think that would have been a disaster that had gone down. But last year, despite the points deduction, or was that the year before? But I think it was last year. They had a decent season, and then they got in Moyes. It's a bit of feel good. I don't know how they're going to do in the new stadium. There's always a bit of a bedding in period, but I think this is what I'm going to say. I think I think they bed in there quite quickly. They get over their problems quite, and I think I'm going to back them to be one of the dark horses of having I'm not saying like win something, but getting into
as
Europe
in like kind of being like pushing.
Being a good side next season, like pushing up the table a little bit and all that. Yeah, I'm going to back them because I think that's a statement of intent, keeping a player like that, because, as I said, a couple of years ago, it would have been impossible for them to even think about it because they needed money, blah, blah. I think they're getting their stuff together. So
yeah, they are, and they need to. It's a Premier League's more and more of a, especially for, I'd say, outside the kind of the big 6. I know United have been there, but like kind of outside the big 6 is a dogfight It's becoming, and there's more teams every season are putting themselves in this dogfight of 8th to basically 15th, 16th place.
And they need something to feel good about their fans because
I like what Everton do. I like their stadium.
Yes,
as far as new stadiums go as well, it's not like they've gone for some outrageous, really expensive. They've gone for, I don't know what the new capacity is, about 50k or something like that. But it looks good, looks nice to play in. Looks like the atmosphere is going to be good. It looks nice. It's on the docks. Not sure about the name, Dickinson Hill Stadium, but it's a stadium that I think will be a lot easier to transition into because they're not moving miles away. Yeah. They're keeping most of their big players, and Everton fans are up for it. And it's not bankrupted the club or anything. As far as I believe.
It's always a big change to change stadiums, no matter what.
Yeah, it is. But I think they've got a good platform to be. They'll be okay. Then they're not going to suffer any sort of
What do you think about the decision to keep Goodison Park open? It's now the women's ground. Do you think would that help them? Because if they start losing in the new ground, there's going to be calls to go back
to the other one.
Go back.
I mean, they're not going to do that. I think that'd be a bit of an outrageous call to make, to go back to Goodison Park after you spent a load of money building this new one. I mean, yeah, it's good for the club. Goodison Park, it's big heritage, and it's a little bit ironic me saying this. I'm happy they've done it, but I'm also the same person who's saying I think United should get rid of Old Trafford. And I know on the surface it's the same thing, but I think the two contexts are very different. But I think keeping Goodison Park, it's good for Liverpool as a city. It's good for Everton because the stadium isn't huge. Like, you're more like, if you're obviously the WSL women's game, it's only getting bigger, it's only getting better, and it's only getting a lot more interesting. So having a ground with that kind of capacity, they're probably going to be able to not sell it out most games, but they'll be able to get a decent atmosphere going. Whereas at Old Trafford, if you had to play all the women's games at Old Trafford, it would be a little more of an empty stadium, bar the big games. United's women's team, they can fill out the stadium if they use it sporadically at Old Trafford at the moment. But I think in Everton's context, it's good because it also means like it's kind of ready-made for them, and it's not like Goodison Park is falling to pieces. It's that I don't believe
it is an old ground.
Is it? Well,
it's one of them beautiful old ground. I love going to.
Because I'm just comparing it to because Old Trafford is just
falling down.
Yeah, it really is. So it'll cost as much to upkeep it over the course of 100 years than it would to just build a whole new brand new stadium that obviously Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants to do.
Yeah.
But no, I think like it's more of a thing that I'm just like, good for them.
I don't know whether it's going to be good for the fans or not, because I say that as a West Ham fan. So when we moved, it was a bit of a nightmare, and I don't know whether I'd have been better with it if Upton Park was still there, or I would have been like outraged, because like if you can move back and like make everything back to what it all depends. It all depends. I think Everton, obviously it's different.
Everton are in a good place to negate most of the issues that come with a new stadium because it kind of the club feels unified in moving. So sometimes moving is controversial. With West Ham, when you moved from the original ground to the stadium, it was because you were levelling up as a club and you were getting this big new stadium.
That
was the plan.
That was the concept.
That was the plan. And then like your first game there pre-season, you're bringing Juventus in, and like he's like, look, we're playing these big teams at this new ground, blah blah blah. But with Everton, I feel there's a lot more unity within the club and the fans and the players to go, this is an upgrade. This is good for us.
Yeah.
So there's not going to be much resistance against it. So when they are in the new ground, the fans are happy. There's no one there going, "Oh, I wish I had my old seat," blah blah blah, because they like it. Their club is getting bigger. Their club is getting better.
I think
at least in their mind.
The issues that come with moving ground is you've got people in a ground that have sat together for years. The atmosphere is when you go into new grounds. You're sitting next to brand new people. It's getting honestly, it's really tough.
But I feel like Everton, as I said, are in a good place to be able to negate the issues, like the stuff like that comes with it, so they can kind of kick on from here.
I've got a feeling they're going to do all right. So,
this is what I mean as well. I don't see there being a massive. There's no big red flags with this.
Somebody, I can't scroll the comments. No, I can't scroll them. Somebody just made a good point about Everton, but we'll get back to it.
Shall I see if I can find it?
If you can, mate, because it won't move up. It's just stuck there. Let's go on to the next subject, then we'll come back to that. What is it? Barcelona versus Athletic Bilbao. Bilbao report Barcelona to La Liga over Williams saga. Bilbao want the release clause paid in full, but Barcelona are broke. Instead, Barca have spoke to Williams' camp and are trying to get him to force a move to bully the club to potentially accept a deal of instalments. Now, I don't watch too much of La Liga. I know a couple of years ago that, Barca were basically on the brink of collapse, and then all of a sudden they're starting winning leagues, they're starting signing players. It's shit house, isn't it? It's bad, isn't it?
I was about to say, I don't know too much of the specifics. I'm going to kind of throw a conspiracy theory out here. But how broke are Barcelona actually? Because they had the whole Frankie de Jong thing when we were trying to sign de Jong, and they were, they're activating these levers, these blah, 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 blah. And then they've gone on to win the league title, twice since then.
Sign Lewandowski.
And they were happy to pay 60 million for Diaz. And then Liverpool go, no one's buying Diaz this summer, go away. And then they turn to United and go, oh, guys, we can't pay 40 million for Rashford. I'm like, you were about to spend 70 on Diaz, 60 million on Ruben Diaz. I don't know. It's like...
It's a weird one.
They're lucky in the way that their academy is touched by God or something. It's ridiculous how the talent that they're consistently producing out their academy is beyond any other academy on the planet, and it has been for so long. They are lucky in that respect. How they ended up with Yamal? It's not fair. He's one of the best players in the world at 17.
But yeah,
and I know, and for the casual football world, of which I admit I am part of, he kind of just spawns out of nowhere. I know, obviously, I think Barcelona fans he's been the big star of Barcelona's academy since he was probably 11 or whatever. But he kind of spawned out of nowhere as one of the best wingers in the world at 16, 17 years old.
But how?
And I don't understand how, I'm not
how are they
sure
doing it? Because, as I said,
it's weird, isn't it?
They had to sell their rights to their media to just keep afloat. They were signing players like Adama Traore on loan, and the guy that was up front, the Norwegian guy what was his name? He was played for, and then all of a sudden they're signing the Lewandowskis. Obviously they've got Yamal come through, but they're back on top of it. Are they getting some sort of help from somewhere? I don't know. I don't know how they're doing it.
I feel like part of it may be that, again, this is pure speculation. Part of it may be they were really broke and they're less broke now, but they like the position of saying they're going to be broke because it means they might sign Rashford on loan and not have to pay 40 million and then pay his wages. Because I am thinking about the Rashford perspective, because that's where Barcelona most comes into my football life, is the Rashford stuff. But yeah, they won 2 league titles in the last 3 or 4 years, I think.
Mix Mitchell said Barca ain't broke. Well, they was a couple of years ago. I don't know where they've got their influx of money from. But, I haven't looked into it or anything, but it just seems to be one of them clubs that just, they're on the brink of collapse to sign in.
On the brink of collapse, and suddenly they signed Rafinha and Lewandowski.
Smashing Barcelona.
And then they win 2 league titles.
Yeah,
How?
Smashing Real Madrid at every opportunity. But, I don't know. There we go. Speculating.
Yeah, I think the Nico Williams signing, when we played Bilbao, was in United, he wasn't amazing.
There's 2 Williams brothers, isn't there?
Yeah, so there's one, there's one's 21, 22, and then one of them's 30. So they're born quite 30-ish, I think.
So Nico's the younger one,
Nico's, right? 20 or 21 years old. I think he's 21, and then Iñaki Williams is, I think he's 30. He wasn't amazing against us, but I think using any of our Europa League games to judge any of the players who were involved in them isn't fair, because they were just the whole run we had in the Europa League was ridiculous. Ridiculous in any sense of the word you can think. Into amazing goals, horrendous mistakes, ridiculous scorelines, all of that. But he was amazing at the Euros. Mm-hmm. He assisted, or did he score in the final again? He scored the goal. Yeah, he was great in the Euros, and he's been performing at Bilbao well for a number of seasons. United, our scout department last year, he was top choice last summer for us. But obviously, we didn't go and get him.
And them two together.
I think,
I think him and Lamar were.
Yeah, and then also having, if Rafinha stays as well, it'll be Lewandowski's last season. That's a great attack for Barcelona. And yeah, in terms of paying the release clause up front, anything, I have no idea, because I don't know Barcelona's finances. I can't understand the club, as we've just touched on. But great signing, I think, and they're gonna. It's an improvement on what they currently have.
Yeah.
So kind of props to them, I guess.
And I've got a feeling that will go through, because that's the type of stuff that happens in Spain. Barca President Laporte said, pay Nico Williams clause. If there's an opportunity in the market that requires paying a release clause, Barcelona is ready to do what is necessary. So they're not.
So they're not broke.
No, absolutely not. People are saying in the chat that they're not broke. Absolutely, but. I don't know where they've got all this influx of money from, because a couple of years ago they were
they won 2 La Liga titles. That's money.
Yeah, and
this is why Liverpool didn't spend for ages, and they won the league title and then won the Champions League a few years ago, and they kind of consistently get half decent in the cups.
Maybe
they just like have money now because and then they prize money,
and Neymar's and all that wages. You know what I mean? Like that adds up when you're paying them £300,000, £400,000, £500,000 a week, whatever they're paying. But there we go. Just before we wrap up then, managerial news. Brentford promote set-piece coach Andrews to replace Thomas Frank. He will be announced sometime today and has been given a 3-year contract.
He was announced about an hour ago.
Yeah. His first game will be against Notts Forest. Notts Forest, yes, that's bad. You shouldn't do that. They'll go mad, Notts Forest. Nottingham Forest, Sunday the 17th of August. Good appointment for them?
I have no idea. I think anyone knows.
Who was he at?
I mean, I think the players will know. The Brentford players will know, and Thomas Frank might know. But it's something in football that I think literally nobody, apart from maybe some well-informed Brentford fans, can give an opinion on. Because he was a set-piece coach.
Yeah,
I know. Like
they always seem to do well with their managerial.
Fair enough, Brentford, because I believe Thomas Frank was also done the same way. I think he was an assistant coach, wasn't he? When he got appointed, I think he was an assistant coach at Brentford, or maybe somewhere else. You can correct me if I'm wrong here.
Oh, we'll have a look.
And then he brought Brentford up. They lost playoff final against Swansea and stuff, but then they managed to get up to the Premier League. And Thomas Frank's now stayed in the Premier League for 3 or 4 seasons, whatever it is, and now he's at Spurs. So fair enough. But it is admittedly a bit of a bizarre one because it's not like there wasn't anyone out there who you could tempt to. For example, like Kieran McKenna. Kieran McKenna, I think, he was a coach at United. Obviously, he's gone on to back-to-back promotions with Ipswich before they end up getting relegated this season.
Yeah.
But I think Kieran McKenna is an individual coach and a manager. He was there, I think, potentially for the taking if he wanted to stay in the Premier League, and Ipswich can go and do whatever they want because they lost to Lap and everything.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Brentford are a Premier League. They're to a certain extent an established Premier League club. There may have been other options out there, but it's also might be a thing that it's part of their philosophy. Like Ollie Watkins, they grew, right? Ivan Toney, they grew him into the player that he ended up being. And Buemo, they signed him when he was 20. From France, and they grew him. Wissa, same thing. They signed him. They've grown Wissa. Yeah. So they may be just growing a new coach in the same way that Brighton, for example, they buy players young and they grow them and they sell them on. So props to them if it works, because it's a decision that I think no one who didn't know Brentford intimately would have made. But it's hard to go, oh yeah, good appointment, because they didn't know who he was until Frank left.
Yeah, I'm sure they've done their due diligence. As you said, like Brighton, they'll
know him better than anyone because he was already at the club.
Yeah, they're very good at doing that. Do you think, quickly, before we move on to the next one, the last one, do you think Thomas Frank will do well at Spurs?
Yes. Oh, yes. Thomas Frank, for me, is... I've always flipped my mind on. I think he's a fantastic coach, and there's no doubt about that. As a manager, he's fantastic. I felt at points he's a bit of a sore loser, and it's grated me. But that might just be because he's not my manager. In the same way that, like I say, Bruno Fernandes is a sore loser, but I love Bruno because Bruno's the captain of the club I support. But I think at Spurs, he is. I think that's a very, very good appointment from Spurs. Frank's a good manager. He's smart. He knows how to get the best out of players. He knows how to grow players. And considering the weird situation that Spurs have had in the last 2 years with winning that European trophy, but also finishing 17th, like the one spot below relegation, and the whole Ange being like almost disconnected from the club at points, but at the same time it was weird. And I feel like Spurs are really backing him as well, because Daniel Levy came out and did an interview about Frank, and Daniel Levy doesn't do interviews, rarely ever, doesn't come out and do press. So I think they're backing Frank. I think Frank's proven at Brentford that he's a very good project manager who can do the right things to not necessarily pull a club up and leapfrog them up to the top again, but he'll pull Spurs back, at least in the Premier League table, up to where they're going to be. Yeah. And if they grab so they're linked to Eze, for example, because they can't get Mbeumo because we're about to sign him. If they get like Eze, for example, a fantastic player from Crystal Palace, they sign another couple players, Frank can give them a much better floor over the next season or two to then really launch off. And
I think he'll balance them, because I think with Ange, I think he was They had a good attack, but the defence was completely
dysfunctional.
Yeah, it's just a shambles.
Chaotic and so much fun to watch as a non-Spurs fan. But as a Spurs fan, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah, it's fun, but it wasn't practical for Spurs. So lastly, but not least, Ruud van Nistelrooy relieved of his duties. He agreed to mutually terminate his contract. He joined in December after Steve Cooper was sacked. He only won 5 games with Leicester and relegated with them. He was destined to be sacked. There was no way on earth that he should have took that job because he was destined to fail.
Yeah, I agree. That job was a bit of a poison chalice for no matter who came in. Pep Guardiola could have had that team, and I still don't think they would have been. Yeah. They would have been safe.
I really didn't get that.
I think Leicester have screwed their fans over a bit here, because it's not like we thought or anyone thought that he was going to stay. The season ended like a month ago. And I know that the reason that they've done this now is because they want the parting fees, whatever it is, the payoff severance to go down in the next PSR year, which kicks in as of July 1st. But I can't admit I'd spend too much time keeping up with Leicester. But as far as I can work out and look at, it's not like they've got someone ready-made to come back, and pre-season starts in a week or two.
I mean, there also has been reports in the last few days that the regime there is pretty much out of money.
Yeah, it's a bit like to go from that amazing Premier League season they had a decade ago, winning the FA Cup, and now they came back up in the Premier League and they were trash and they've gone straight back down. It's a shame,
really, because
it is.
They went from Premier League winners, and you think there was going to be like a stabilised Premier League team, and they missed out on Champions League twice in 2 seasons on the last day, and then the next season they go down, and I don't think they're going to recover from this. To be quite honest with you, it's a shame for Leicester.
They're going to end up being like forgotten forgotten club Swansea.
Yeah,
Swansea were a Premier League team for a decade, and then now
Luton, they've just gone down again, League One.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if Leicester will get relegated, because
I don't know. It seems to be a bit of a mess there. Because
it seems to be like, I don't know. Like, I feel like Luton they actually just had a really poor squad. Leicester might be right. Like, Ndidi might go. Vardy's obviously gone, and it is a mess. So you never know. They might go down. But I feel like we're not going to see them for a while.
So they're not coming up.
They're not straight back up. No, definitely not.
Yeah, I think they could be a bit of trouble for Leicester in the next couple of years. But keep your eyes on it. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us on Transfer Live at 5. We'll be back on Monday. Straight after this one is what is it? Best of Enemies after this show, guys. So go tune into that and see what Robbie and X and KG have been getting up to this week. But yeah, thank you very much, Dylan, for joining us.
Hey, I've really enjoyed it.
Do you want to plug your site again?
Yeah, so if you're a United fan, utddistrict.co.uk. We're mainly on Twitter. That's our main thing. We're trying to build up our Instagram again. Website, content, every single day on our website. And I've thoroughly enjoyed my little debut on DR. No, it's been very nice. Mate. You've
done very well. And if you want to see more on me, I'm on West Ham Fan TV. I'll be on at 8 o'clock as it happens. But thank you very much for joining us. One thing left for me to say, join us on Monday, live at 5.